Yikes! Hello and welcome. I'm your host Wim Lu. You are listening to the Raptors Reaction Podcast. After the Raptors get bullied off their home court, 113-95 by the Detroit Pistons. All credit to the Pistons. That is a team that is very admirable. It's a team that you should follow. They almost look like the OKC of the East, basically. Similar formula. Obviously, dominant number one guy, Cade Cunningham. Not maybe yet at the level of Shea, but I mean, the way he was hitting the threes tonight, it was unbelievable, and also one of the best passers in the NBA, just one of the best leaders in the league. Period. Like bona fide all star, like no doubt about it. All NBA, everything. Give him all the plaudits, man. He's amazing, and very underrated too. But he sets the tone for the entire team, not just with offense, but even with his defense. I saw him being so physical today, and that is the term that's going to come up over and over again when I'm discussing this game. I'm sure when the Raptors are breaking it down in the post game. I know everyone, it's a getaway game. It's a getaway game. Obviously, everyone's looking forward to the All-Star break. Cade, Scottie, Brandon, Darko, JB Bickerstaff, Elijah Martin, Colin Murray Boyles. Like maybe they could charter a plane together. Go to LA together from Toronto. But I think it also really showed two teams with very different mentalities. The Pistons, you know what the Pistons are about. Whenever the Pistons are good, and they've been really good in their history, obviously, with the bad boy Pistons winning 2, and then the '04 Pistons winning 1, but being in the conference finals, like how many years in a row in the East, right? So when the Pistons are good, they got a formula, right? Yes, they have pretty elite creators on the ball who can create something. Cade right up there with better than Chauncey Billups, better than Rip Hamilton, Isaiah Thomas. Like we can even put him in those conversations. That's how good Cade is. But the fundamental, when you hear Detroit basketball, that means they're coming to beat you up. And I gotta say, it's not just that they were physical; they were playing really smart, playing really unselfish. They competed for every basket, and maybe for Toronto, it's like, well, we could throw away this game. We're young, we're about to go to the All-Star game. We're pretty happy being 9 up, over 500 at this point in the season. It's a big jump for us. The Pistons, man, they look hungry as hell. Last game, they just beat the Charlotte Hornets, who had a 9-game win streak. I don't need to tell any Raptor fan who's paid attention how hard the Hornets are this season. They played them down to the wire. Multiple fights break out. And, they come into this game obviously shorthanded, right? And if you're the Raptors, you might say, well, we caught a break. We don't have Jalen Dern, who's an all-star. We don't have Isaiah Stewart, who's certainly excellent. Both guys would easily start for the Raptors, not even close, actually. But, you might say, well, we caught a break. You didn't catch no break, man. And I think with the Pistons, they don't let up. It doesn't matter who's on the floor. They don't let up. I'll tell you this much. As good as Cade Cunningham was tonight, and he was awesome, right? 28 points, 6 threes. Didn't even have to play the fourth quarter. Just like so utterly dominant in this game. I will tell you, I will bet you good money that the Pistons could have come in tonight without Cade Cunningham as well, and they still would have beat the Raptors on the home floor of the Toronto Raptors. And I know that's a bold claim considering how well Cade played, and obviously had a huge impact in this game. But I'm just talking about mentality. Man, the Pistons, they have the same, approach as the Thunder did. And the Thunder obviously reigning champions. The Pistons obviously this year number 1 in the East by a bullet. Slept on as like no one really talks them that strongly. I would say they were almost flying under the radar, but how could they be flying on the radar when they're punching you in the mouth? Because they play this smash mouth basketball. Everyone comes after you. And again, I credit to the system and the coaching from that side, because I do think a lot of your identity as a team, you adopt the tendencies of your coach. Same thing with your leader as well. And I credit them in terms of their management for the type of players they bring in. They're pretty selective about the guys they bring in. When you look at the Pistons roster, you might say, well, that's not a lot of guys in here I recognize for skill. Are they really that good? Oh, yeah, they're that good because, it's about the will. Like, all they got on that team is just dogs, man. They choose to get B-Ball Paul. Anyone could have had B-Ball Paul. The long-awaited return of Jakob Poeltl. He gets upstaged by Paul Reed, who goes for 22 points, and at one point was like 10 of 11 from the field. He ended up missing his last 6 shots, but it doesn't matter. The game was over, right? That's their third string big that did that. He was awesome tonight, right? They choose to go get guys like Javonte Green. These guys are just straight up dogs. They choose to get Dennis Jenkins, who they've converted off a 2-way contract. You know, I mean, that guy could start for the Raptors. That's how good he is. And he's on a 2-way, and they just converted him for multiple years. Congratulations to him, but it's also one of the best contracts in the league now, right? A player that shifty, that tough, that clever going to the basket. And what's maybe the most impressive thing watching it as someone who doesn't watch the Pistons like this closely all the time. Obviously, I've seen a lot of Pistons game, but watching it up close in my building in Toronto, seeing them against the team I see all the time, the Pistons are so impressive because they even get guys who aren't known as defenders to give 150% as defenders. Their physicality, their ability to scrap and fight for every play, surprise with double teams, rotate, take tough fouls, take hard fouls, scrap for the ball, dive on the floor. Not a good game by Duncan Robinson or Kevin Huerter, right? Those are maybe the only weak spots that they have on their team. But those guys were fighting like crazy, and I respect that because that means there's team culture there. And of course, that doesn't mean to say I'm just trying to dismiss or undermine what the Raptors are. Raptors got a nice team culture as well. But this is boys versus men right here, man. Like, the Pistons, they're ready to go to war. They're ready to go to war in, what is today, February 12th? Yeah, or 11th. They're ready to go to war February 11th. Literally went to war 2 nights ago when they literally fought people on the court, right? That's their identity. And they play like that, no compromises, no nothing, right? They play like that on the road, they play like that at home, on back-to-backs, no excuses, nothing. Toronto, you get a really nice sense of, man, I know we lost, but we're really happy to be here, man. Like, you know, like we made a lot of progress, really happy to be here. I don't sense the hunger. I don't sense the hunger. And I don't sense that character to be the same as what the Pistons brought tonight. I don't. And if we look ahead to the future, in the moments that will humble you, maybe this game isn't humbling enough, right? Because it's whatever. Game before the playoffs, or before the All-Star break, Raptors going to send lots of All-Stars. I'm going to be very happy for them. I'm going to be going down there myself tomorrow with the crew, and we're going to be giving them lots of coverage. And I think they deserve a lot of celebration, right? You can exist in both spaces. But the All-Star appearances, that might be the height of the Raptors season. For the Pistons, cool. What's next? First game on the schedule after the break. Let's go get that win. And then the next win. And then when we get to the playoffs, when we're the undisputed number 1 seed, who's coming out of that playing tournament? It doesn't matter. We'll beat them. And then the next series, we'll beat them. And they're just going to keep growing from there. And you might say, well, the Raptors are a young team. This is a young team too, man. They got a lot of young players. But the young players have that mentality. And they fight like that. And they fight for every possession. What strikes me about this game is that the Raptors didn't even really get blown out with a crazy hot shooting performance from the Pistons. Like, yeah, Cade got hot from 3, but this guy's an all-NBA player, all-world player. You know, that's going to happen, right? You put Jakob Poeltl in the pick and roll, and he's not stepping up, and Cade Cunningham's coming off a big screen. Come on. He's going to shoot that thing, and he's probably going to make it, right? So it's not even that big of a shooting performance. They hit 14 threes, they shot 41%. Not that big of a deal. Shot 46% from the field. Again, pretty normal, right? On the Raptors side, especially until late in the game when some of the Raptors started missing, it wasn't like guys weren't making shots. Guys were, you know, taking their usual shots and whatever. And they were making a decent proportion. It wasn't like the Raptors were missing everything and the Pistons got off to a big lead. But it was, when you watch the game viscerally, the small details became the defining characteristic of the entire night. How the Raptors come off a screen, and how the Pistons are physical, communicate, hedge the screen if they want to hedge the screen, go under the screen. Well, actually, they rarely went under the screen, but go under the screen if they need to go under the screen. They pass guys along on the assignments. If they need to switch, there is a seamless switch, so there isn't a gap to hit. And then no matter who it was, whether it was a guard, whether it was a big, whether it was a wing, everybody is physical into the ball. It took the Raptors so much time and effort to get into some of their plays. And their point of attack defense, their help defense, and again, to a man, seriously, if Cade Cunningham decided to come in to wrap this game and said, yo, man, All-Stars, literally tomorrow, all right, I don't want to get hurt. We're already up a lot. I'm just going to chill on defense tonight. You guys got me tonight, right? No one could say a mumbling word about that because, of course, he's like the mayor of Detroit. No one will say a word about that. What was impressive to me wasn't even Cade's three-point shooting. It was how physical he was going around screens and guarding people and even borderline hand-checking people, rotating for help-side blocks, and just the toughness that he played with. It's what you want from a leader for the whole group. And look, I'm very happy for Brandon Ingram. Made the All-Star game. I think I've already made the case. I think he's deserving of that honor. I think that he's been a big win for the Raptors. Yesterday at practice, all the focus was about Brandon. The Raptors did cancel practice. That the Darko said they scheduled 45 minutes for practice. 15 minutes in, they announced Brandon's made the All-Star game, and then they canceled the remainder of practice. Okay, first off, I'm sure if you're the Pistons, you're like laughing. You're like, what do you mean? We're the number one seed. We're coming into your building. You're canceling practice. Okay, let me show you what you could have done in practice, right? Maybe close that 20-point gap that was in this game. But whatever. Huge moment for Brandon. I was really happy for it. Starting this game off, first two plays, B-ball Paul trying to get downhill, just pushing Brandon Ingram out the way. Brandon Ingram not making the extra pass to IQ open in the corner, to RJ open in the corner. Guys starting to hang their head. That's not how Cade played. And look, I'm obviously I know Cade's a much better player than Brandon Ingram. Cade's a much better player than anyone on the Raptors. But there has to be a level of consistency and drive and focus on a night in, night out basis. And I know that people always, I think people get annoyed sometimes when they hear me talk about like, wow, don't be so hard on the team. We're having a good year overall. Why are you being negative? And I think there's some validity in that. It's not to say I don't fully enjoy the Raptors. Believe me, if you watch the Raptors game with me, you would see all the spectrum of emotion from full joy to full despair, right? Everything in between. I live this thing as vicariously as possible. And I want to, because this has been one of the great passions in my life is the Raptors. But I think I would be straight up dishonest with you if I didn't see the exact same thing happening to the team every time they face these type of matchups. The physicality that overwhelms them in all the losses to Boston this year, all the losses to Detroit this year, which is just one, but there will be more coming, don't worry. Especially when they get their big boys back. I mean, damn, bro. It's going to be even worse than this. Trust me, right? Dalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart in there. I mean, you thought B-Ball Paul was something? I mean, damn, bro. It's going to be next level when those guys come in. And they might fight you on top of that. All the losses to Boston this year. Some of the recent collapses, right? Against Orlando, Minnesota, even the Clippers loss. There's some commonalities in those things. And I just keep saying this. Unless they address it and point towards it head on and adapt to it and just someone say this is not okay and we keep running up on the same issue and it's not okay, we're not going to solve this. Raptors are a team that is going to hit a ceiling with this group, and we will see soon in the playoffs, and we'll be happy to be there, but we'll be very not surprised to be out very shortly because we were only ever happy to be there. There's not serious intentions. This is what playoff basketball looks like. In fact, this is the average playoff basketball game. Guys grabbing, holding, being physical. So, having said all that, how do you combat that? First off, some of the players are just straight up not strong enough. And there's strength in a variety of factors. Strength in being able to hold your position. Strength being able to absorb contact. Strength being able to play through contact. There's both offensive and defensive toughness, right? Raptors lack a lot of offensive toughness. And what I mean by that is the Raptors, when that pressure turns on and the team against them starts to be into the ball, physical, fighting around screens, fighting around switches, not giving up mismatches, not giving up advantages. When they do give advantages, hard trapping, hard blitzing, there's real pressure on you. The Raptors stop executing their offense. And it's a habit of theirs. And it's almost a reflex, I think for most people in the world, if someone, threw a ball in towards your face, no matter if they pump faked or not, you probably flinch. But then there are the people like Kobe. When Matt Barnes does the ball, fake towards his face, he doesn't flinch. Raptors have a very strong flinching instinct. So when there's pressure on the ball, they start shielding, they start protecting, they start getting out of control, they start getting sped up. There is nobody on the team that really plays at his own pace and dictates the game. I watching Cade Cunningham tonight, he dictated the game. You pressured him, he invites your pressure. He pulls your pressure until it breaks, and then he snaps with a little extra pass, and it's over for you. It's 4-on-3. The rest of the team knows what to do from there. Thank you very much. He's done his job. And of course, if you don't put enough pressure on him, he's killing you. So it's a constant tension that he brings to your offense. And no matter how much the Raptors wanted to pressure him, and they tried Scottie Barnes tonight, got into 3 fouls in the first quarter. Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shed, none of these guys had any effect. Okay, Raptors eventually had to trap him, pass over the top. You're burning on 4-on-3, and if they miss, they'll get the offensive rebound. Don't worry about it. More toughness, coming into play. But the Raptors lack offensive toughness, especially from their guards. RJ was the only guy tonight that I thought was able to touch the paint with any sort of consistent basis, and it wasn't. And honestly, RJ should be like a secondary type of guy, maybe even tertiary, like ideally even 6-man type in terms of like that level of impact. I appreciate it. I think in this team they're scarcely short in what RJ brings in terms of that north-south, even get into the paint, pump fake, draw a foul type of thing. IQ actually having to play decently tonight, but he's not a creator against this. If IQ is asked to play on ball instead of off ball tonight, would not have been as efficient as he is tonight, and we would have been complaining about IQ. But watching Jamal Shed try to execute, I mean, this might have been one of Jamal's worst games. Humbling game, really, really humbling. Because, yes, it felt genuinely out of place to hear Jack talk about, Jamal was snubbed. And I know, we feel that. Like, it's not like it's a unique feeling to Jack, or it's not Jack being a homer. Like, I think that's a common sentiment. I felt that as well. I literally went to practice and asked a couple guys, like, about Jamal getting snubbed. But at the same time, I was watching Dennis Jenkins, and I was like, the crossovers, getting to the spots, setting guys up, executing no matter what. I was like, he was making him look like Chris Paul out there. In terms of how he executed, Jacoby, Grady, a lot of these guys can't get their game off against physicality. To be honest, I didn't see a lot of determination from Scottie in this one either. And I know it's like, not trying to single him out because I'm literally in a discussion over a lot of players on the team, but he didn't really have it in a game where sometimes it's band for band. Okay, their star players going off, right? 26 or 28 for Cunningham in 3 quarters. If he wanted to, he probably could have dropped 40 tonight, no problem, right? Nobody stepped to him in the slightest, right? And I know Scottie was in foul trouble. Right? Part of that is because he took the first foul just to stop a break, just so he can check out the game. I thought he was hurt. He wasn't even hurt. He just wanted a breather. That was like 7 minutes, 43 seconds off on the clock in the first quarter. I'm sorry, but after 4 minutes, we need to take an intentional foul to come out. And it was like, fine, you know what? You got to come out the game. That's fine. But as a star player, you know this. You can't be taking excessive fouls. We need you in the game. Especially in a dogfight like this. We need as much Scottie Barnes as possible, not as little. Right? And so once he takes that first foul, then he takes the second foul, then he takes a third foul after Darko trusts him to keep playing with the second foul. All of a sudden, you basically don't see him for the rest of the first half. Right? Huge impact. And when we're talking about going band for band with the star, didn't feel like that. Same thing for Brandon Ingram. The ball was, he was either forcing it at certain times, or there was enough pressure on the ball where they always want to get Brandon the ball off the ball. And that's fine. Right? Because generally speaking, players are always going to be more efficient playing off the ball. You get open easier. You're not going to get double team off the ball, all that kind of stuff, right? But that's contingent on the ball handler being able to handle all the pressure, absorb it, be able to deliver an accurate pass, and that's also contingent on the player off the ball being able to fight off the grabbing, holding, and then getting around solid screens where the Raptors do not set. You look at the Pistons, the way they set screens versus the Raptors screens, not even close, okay? Raptors look like a merry-go-round when they set screens. The Pistons looks like you're legit running through an escape room. You're like just, you have nowhere to go basically. But if you're gonna play off ball, you got to be able to be strong enough and determined enough to get the contact off you, because people are always gonna be grabbing and holding, and then also use effective screens. So they didn't even give Brandon the ball very much. Yeah, when Brandon got it, he got a couple of tough buckets. That's what he does. But they limited Brandon. I mean, Brandon Ingram tonight took 7 shots. Karis LeVert took 8 shots. Kevin Huerter took 9. Dennis Jenkins took 9. Even Tobias Harris took, 9. Duncan Robinson, 8. 7 shots for Brandon. They didn't get him the ball enough. And of course, that's the other part. Maybe we got to start possessions with Brandon, but they just never do that. They don't. I swear they hate it when Brandon dribbles. Sometimes you got to go with adapt to the situation. And that's where, again, I think even from a coaching perspective, didn't see a lot of, execution. Didn't see a lot of response. And I didn't see a lot of adaptation. I saw a bit of stubbornness, everyone knows that line about everyone's got a plan until they punch you in the mouth, right? That was the Mike Tyson line. Raptors getting punched in the mouth, and the Raptors were still going with the same plan. Was the plan to get knocked out? Because that's what happened, right? Darko calls the first time out. It was 17-10. Darko calls the second timeout. It was 22-10. Right afterwards, they turned the ball over out of the timeout, and then they gave up 2 dunks. RJ ball watching for a backdoor cut, and Asar Thompson getting backdoor again. 2 dunks. Raptors called timeout again. Was anybody benched? Was there an adjustment to say, hey, first half, this guy was not playing well, this guy's playing well, we got to go with this? Didn't see a lot of that, right? And on top of that, putting aside all of that, the return of Jakob Poeltl. I'm sure they had some reason, and I'm sure it was there had some sense of bringing back Jakob this game in particular. If you guys recall, I was always very weary of the Raptors having to play Jakob against the Pistons. In fact, I think I called it the worst possible matchup for him. And of course, that was back before I saw the fight between the Pistons and the Hornets. And so I was thinking that Jakob would have to go against Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, 2 guys even when he has been healthy, he's been pushed around by. But I was like, man, for the sake of his back, does it have to be against the Pistons? But then I was thinking about it, and I was watching this game, I was like, for the sake of the Raptors, does it have to be for the Pistons? If you're going to come back in a game and try to adapt and try to adjust, I kind of imagine like you're bringing your kid to the swimming pool for the first time. You put a little floaters on the kid, maybe a little board, you take him to the shallow section, you're holding him, and, you just gently kind of like, come swim like 2 meters to mama, one of those things, when you pass the little kid off in the kiddie pool. Playing the Pistons in your first game back is like jumping into the Atlantic Ocean. There's like sharks swimming around, orcas. The current is going crazy. It's El Nino or whatever. Yeah, not a good matchup. And honestly, it didn't help the Raptors. Watching Jakob tonight, I mean, I don't think it's not unrelated that B-Ball Paul went for 10 of 11 shooting to start the game against Jakob. Jakob getting put on skates, stumbling around out there. I'm not trying to demean Jakob because I think he's quite a good player, and I think the Raptors have quite missed him. And more than anything else, I really want him to be physically okay. It does suck to be injured. I've gone through a couple injuries recently myself. I really, was bedridden at certain times. So on a wellness perspective, I want him to be good. But it was a liability out there. I mean, not to say that, a healthy Jakob would have stopped Cade Cunningham in his tracks, but you're telling me you got a gingerly stumbling Jakob, feeling his way through the dark in his comeback game, and he got to see Cade Cunningham in a pick and roll? I mean, come on. Come on, man. Out of all matchups, and there's another break coming. It's not like there's another whole week off, right? So you're not getting him rhythm because everyone's going to be out of rhythm after a whole week off. I don't know. I'm sure there was some thought behind it, but he was certainly not a positive. I kind of threw off the rotation a little bit too. I think Trace, despite his very positive debut, comes in 10 minutes off the bench, some of a garbage time, wasn't impactful. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't mean to say that like nothing went well, but nothing went well about this. I think that this is fully a review of the playoffs, and I don't know. Like, I could tell. Like, when the Raptors win, there's a huge audience. When the Raptors lose, there's a small audience. People like to look away. That's normal, right? It's entertainment. At the end of the day, people aren't looking for some sort of sermon from some random Asian guy behind a screen who obviously hasn't played basketball to come in and lecture the players. And that's not even what I'm trying to do, right? But we can look away at all you want. If you want to watch the playoffs, this is what the playoffs is going to look like for you guys. And this wasn't friendly, man. This wasn't friendly. Before we actually get to the break, what's interesting to me is there were actually a couple noteworthy things that were said at practice on Tuesday, the one that the remainder of got canceled for Brandon, where they actually discussed the problem of physicality. And so this is where I actually really liked hearing their responses, because they actually acknowledged the problem. First one, let's hear from Brandon Ingram about physicality and the Raptors struggles with it.
Well, you got to think about what would you do if you were playing against the Raptors, and what has caused us less success. And I imagine that they're going to come in and be super physical, and they're going to try to out-rebound us. They're going to try to run the floor, and we got to come and be smarter than them. We got to handle the physicality well, and when we get to the...
Okay, and here's Darko talking about
there
physicality.
Are different ways of physicality. There are different things how you can be physical. Our physicality is not really based on muscle and size, which we don't have a lot of that. But our physicality is more based on our activity and us being in right spots and us covering for each other. It's kind of like team aspect of it. And a lot of those most physical teams, they just like really do really good job, ball screens and the grabbing and holding and like making it hard to execute and run your offense. So it's something for us that we need to play against and then improve on. So as I said, it's always great to play against those type of teams because we always benefit from that.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know, my computer charger is going off, but sorry for the background noise. But yeah, I mean, it is good to play these teams because sooner or later, and whether it's a less painful fashion, whether it's a more painful fashion, the Raptors have to learn that lesson. And again, it's not just that the Pistons had more athletic players and stronger players, or maybe their natural mentality is that they're more suited to fighting and being dogs or whatever. Some of that also just has to be like instilled by the team. And I'm sure after losses, the Pistons aren't looking away. After collapsing in back-to-back games, they're not talking about it's a make or miss league. They take their matters in their own hands. And my only hope is that the Raptors do the same thing, because this is not quite embarrassing because people can look away. But when you get to the playoffs, this is all you're going to see. And that's where I sincerely hope for the Raptors, not just for this group, but even the future groups. They have to get over this hurdle, because we've seen teams stuck on it. Like, to be honest, I watch the Cavs every year in the playoffs, and I'm like, well, because obviously I'm not covering the Cavs, so I can maybe even speak more frankly about them. I'm like, team's soft. It just is. They don't have the mentality of a team that's going to go all the way. Former Raptors teams, they were harder than this Raptors team, but they were still soft in certain ways, And I know it's like reductive sometimes. People are like, it's too simplistic. Well, it's about the play call here and there and the adjustment here or there. No, I'm sure. Like, I'm absolutely sure. Like, it is more complex than saying this team's hard and this team's soft or whatever. But on the impression of it, though, yeah, a little bit soft. So we're going to take a quick break here for one of our sponsors and take some of your questions. We'll keep this one short a little bit because I'm not going to lie, I got to catch the morning flight. I'm a little bit soft myself. I got to catch the morning flight. So, yeah, I'm not going to run the pod too long tonight, but still, I think I know after every game when this happens, I just want to address it. That's all.
This segment is brought to you by Table Fare and Social. Get your pregame bites and after-work drinks at Table.
It's a great location, right across the street from the arena and just steps away from Union Station and the Metrolinx bus terminal.
Will, I love my wedge salad, but there's plenty of options at Table. What should we have next?
Oh, we could have salad for days, my friend.
Oh, you're talking about salad days? I love salad days, man. They got a different salad for every day of the week. You can never get tired of the options there.
Oh yeah, I heard about this place. This was your go-to lunch spot forever. You always said the lettuce was so crispy.
Man, it's so crispy and fresh, and now this can be your go-to meal before Raptors games.
I like that. Grab a pregame salad at Table Fair and Social right across from the arena. Okay, we are going to take your questions. Big shouts to intern Karem, who has been very busy of late, but still making time, obviously, to do the pod. Actually, no longer intern Karem. We actually took the intern label off Karem, because it's just Karem now, okay? But he's been looking for your questions in the chat. We'll go through them. And, first off, we're going to go through some of the money that we got. Hashim sends in $5. To be fair, the Raptors will probably finish with the same record as the Pistons did last year. Not making excuses for them, but they're a year ahead of us. I think that there's definitely some validity to that. I think that, the Pistons were the surprise team last year. The Pistons made this miraculous jump. They won, I think 18 games or something like that, maybe 15 even. But then they made that huge jump to making 48 wins last season. This year, obviously, they're going to be well into the 50s. Might even touch 60. You never know. But I think for the Raptors, you might say, well, last year the Raptors were at 30, and this year the Raptors won't make as big of a jump as the Pistons, but, we'll probably finish in, the 45 range, assuming they go, slightly over 500 the rest of the way. But I gotta say, at the root of it, they don't feel the same to me, man. I mean, I think the Pistons, look, granted, the Pistons went through a harder tank, right? The Pistons were worse for a long time. Pistons didn't have a championship period that they were building off of and maybe trying to hold on to like the Raptors were. So they went the hard rebuild route, and some of the guys, panned out for them. Some of them, obviously, Cade, but I guess we got Scottie in the same draft. And they got, a couple guys that have really worked out, but even the style of players they got, Ron Holland, that's another fighter right there. Duran, Stewart, Sar Thompson, they're very intentional about the type of players they bring in, and I don't entirely see that from Toronto side. I know we have a identity of our own. We share the ball, we move it, all that's kind of nice, but we almost have we got a nice persona. You know what I mean? And at least in sports, nice guys finish last. Or in this case, they'll finish with a good record, but they won't finish on the championship podium. Okay, let's get a couple more questions in. Poeltl just running out there. Look, I wasn't expecting the world out of Jakob in his first game back. He's been out for 2 months. To be honest, this Jakob that I saw tonight was basically the Jakob that we saw in the play-in game. Remember, the Raptors were in the play-in quarterfinals, or the NBA Cup quarterfinals, and we're all excited for that. Raptors were in a good season at that point, and then they faced the Knicks, and what happened? They got blown out by 20 by the Knicks, and they got pushed around. Very similar to this game, by the way. So it's not like this is the first time we've seen it. In fact, we've seen maybe 8 of these losses. But it was the same thing. Yak just didn't look physically right. Now, granted, it's already encouraging that he's back on the court, and hopefully he's able to build off of this. But yeah, certainly didn't. Especially when you're thinking about a team lacking physicality and size, and needing things like screening, needing things like shot protection or rim protection, like rebounding. You expect that from the center position, but that was not even close to. Yak himself will tell you that was maybe half of 50% of Yak out there. It didn't really feel right. Channel sends in, Will, question for you. How are the Pistons allowed to play well without their starting center? I thought you had to lose to good teams without your starter. I think that's obviously a bit of tongue-in-cheek, but I think one of the things too is you have to establish an identity with your group. I remember always being annoyed when the Raptors played the Heat because it felt like they were fouling on every play. Grit and grind Grizzlies had a bit of that. OKC definitely has that right now. Detroit has that right now. You almost have to set that standard. I was watching this game and I was just watching it in person, I was like, man, there's a lot of fouling. There's a lot of hand checking. There's a lot of grabbing and holding. But that's the tone they play. And they play that consistently the whole quarter and the whole game. And I don't know. I think when you commit wholeheartedly to that mentality, and it's 1 through 15 and not just some guys doing it, I think it really, I don't know. It shouldn't really buy you leeway. Obviously, that shouldn't be how, rules work. But that just kind of is how it is. You know what I mean? And, yeah, certainly tonight I watched the Pistons have no let up. Like I said, I honestly think if the Pistons came in with no Cade Cunningham tonight, they still beat the Raptors. Maybe not by this much, but they still beat the Raptors. And that's a credit to sort of their overall approach, Like, you know, like you I don't know if people have worked in different companies and stuff. Like, the companies have culture, you know, and the Pistons have developed a very tough-minded culture, and everyone that comes in fits into that culture, and all the guys that they develop are born with that culture. Like, all of that, it's a real thing. It's like when playing OKC. Like, OKC has that. You know, you're always frustrated because, like, it looks like Caruso's like hacking you, and Lou Dort's hacking you, and some of that's true, and some of that is, you know, they're getting the positive residuals of their reputation, but it just is what it is. What are you going to do about it? It's not like you don't have the same ability to sort of play like that. But the Raptors largely don't play like that. We got a lot of guys who shy up from contact, and you know, that's how, when you do eventually contact them, you get called for fouls. Yeah, maybe Yak could have come off the bench in this one. He looks slow. He's getting cooked by Reed. I'm sure, look, they want probably some level of, like, you know, continuity playing with Yak, maybe get some experience playing off of Yak. I mean, it's not like Yak hasn't been there like forever, but, like, you know, maybe there's a bit of that. But yeah, just didn't look right. He only played 20 minutes anyway. Question here: Grady's supposed to be doing what Duncan Robertson's doing, but this guy can barely make open threes. Actually, this was one of the games where Grady was fine on open threes. He was 2 of 4 from 3 and 3 of 8 from the field, 2 of 2 from the foul line. 10 points in 60 minutes off the bench, like, was only a -1. But I do agree with you in the sense of, like, there is just a walking threat with Duncan. And even though Duncan had basically the same stat line, he was 13 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3. He just made a couple more free throws. There is a walking threat with Duncan. And I think, actually, if there's anything Grady's going to take from Duncan, is how strong Duncan Robinson is on screens, and how stubborn he is of not allowing himself to get bullied on defense. Grady has a little bit of that, and I feel like he could maybe potentially turn into Duncan. Granted, I don't know if you've watched Duncan's, like, practice reels and stuff, but, like, this man will make, like, 89 out of 100 in practice. You know what I mean? Like 90 out of 100 basically in practice. Grady is closer to like a 65, 70 type of guy. Most Raptors are topped out at that, actually. So there is a different level. I totally agree. And it's, when you're talking about shooting threes, it's not just same standstill 3 in rhythm each time getting fed out the machine. It's like, what's your footwork? Are you getting both of them down? Are you fading? Are you right at the line? Are you a couple steps back? Are you one dribble, like, relocate to the side? Are you sidestepping to the side? Obviously, Duncan's not really doing that, but are you putting more arc on it to go over a tougher contest? You know, all sorts of stuff. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into it. I feel like Duncan is a great model for how Grady should sort of try to adapt himself. But I didn't even think Grady was that bad tonight, to be honest. Maybe in the first half, actually. There were a couple moments, but overall, I think he was actually making his shots. And also the mentality to be aggressive every single time. I think that's huge, because I definitely felt watching this game, and I understand where the question's coming from, is that, like, it felt like there's a way bigger threat coming from Duncan versus from Grady. And there was, because he carried it like that, you know? IQ's game felt invisible somehow. 18 points and the worst plus minus on the team. Yeah, I mean, he was mostly just off ball, knocking down threes. At one point, he was, doing the call 5 celebrations. I mean, I just he was okay. He was just off ball and was able to knock down shots. I didn't really have too many issues with him. I think defensively, though, it's kind of like a problem that the Raptors can't put any. Like, if they have the tough defensive matchup, they don't trust either RJ or IQ to do it, right? Even the last game where they beat the Pacers a couple nights ago in Toronto. Remember, one of the big adjustments, and the guy who got the chain was Jacoby Walter. That's because they put Walter in the starting lineup to replace CMB in the second half. And the reason they put Walter in to replace a big, even though that's weird to put a guard in to replace a big, but they needed that guard to then guard Andrew Nembhard so that either IQ and RJ couldn't do it. But why can't we trust IQ and RJ to guard people? And why do we have to avoid it? Because if you're telling me the starting lineup has RJ, IQ, and Brandon, who are all actively not looking to defend, where's the toughness going to come from, right? Again, like, the Pistons, whether they were good defenders or not, they were all actively looking to defend. That's the standard you should try to hold yourself to. What else? No more IQ wasting 10 seconds at the top of the arc. IQ is much better when he darted into the paint. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is you have the point guard at the top. You have some screening off the ball to get somebody open off a catch, to come receive the ball. Some of that is guys got to get open off the ball. Guys got to be able to screen off the ball. It's not just because everyone watches the ball. So everyone's like, why is IQ just standing there holding the ball? He's trying to trigger a play that's taking too long to start. And then sometimes you got to call his own number. The issue with that is, well, number one, you don't have to always play like that. Okay. I mean, if you want to play like that, you guys got to execute better, period. Right. The screen's got to be better. Usually the off ball plays for Brandon. Brandon's got to come around that screen. And then IQ's got to deliver that pass to a point where Brandon's able to catch it with an advantage, right? Because what are you doing all this off the ball stuff if you're not giving him an advantage, right? If he's catching it and he stands still and there's no advantage, then we just wasted time getting the ball like 2 meters inside the 3-point arc. Doesn't even help you, right? But the alternative to that is we can sometimes just put the ball in the best player's hands and initiate from there, And I know that like we don't have the pick and roll operator like Cade, but you could still make it a little bit easier for someone to play in that sort of position. You don't think Brandon can get himself to the literally 2 steps within the 3-point line at the elbow? They can, but they insist on so much of this off-ball stuff. And for a young team, I guess you can allow it because you got to think that they're getting better and they're working on it. But then they actually got to get better and work on it, because if they don't, then you're just wasting people's time. So yeah, I don't want to be so blunt about it, but that's kind of is what it is. Mamu and BR are the only Raptors to show effort and have good body language. Everyone else is super unserious. I don't know about that, but I do think that there is like an emotional swing for a lot of these guys. I think Jamal really hangs his head when plays don't work out. Jamal had a lot of bad Jamal was just horrible tonight. There's just no I love Jamal, man. I'm literally like the captain of the Jamal Ched fan club, but like the guy played 24 minutes and had like purely negative impact in a game like this tonight. Throwing the ball away in traffic, getting pinned down in like kind of ridiculous fashion, to be honest. Like no chance he could have even possibly got that shot off. I just don't think that these guys as of right now have enough cachet and enough belief and enough mental toughness and sort of how they play that like the mistakes affect them. And that's very human. Like mistakes affect everybody. Like if I make a mistake, on air and I say something wrong, or I cite the wrong stat, or even if my computer charger pops off, like there's obviously a natural human level of like embarrassment and maybe discourages you to some degree. But when we're talking about professional sports at this high, literally the highest level, part of what separates guys like that is just like they don't care. They just keep coming back with the same approach every single time. And there is almost it's like it's irrational to compete that hard, but that's what it takes to get it done at this level. So yes, I would have loved to seen that better from even IQ and RJ are guilty of this too sometimes. Jakob kind of stays even keel, but I mean, doesn't really matter, I guess. So we also got a question here. We've already got a sense of how bad some of the lineups are, yet Darko will run something like RJ plus bench for no reason. I mean, right now, the thing is, it feels like Darko's still trying to play a few too many guys, right? So you got IQ and RJ as one bench guard combination, and then you got Jamal and Jacoby as one bench guard combination. Jamal, Jacoby, Grady together are it's just such a, in these difficult games, like if we see those three together in a playoff setting where it's like the game's still within reach, like that is a mistake. And I understand they're young guys, you're trying to expose them and get more, reps in, whatever you want to call it, man. But it's not enough. Like those three guys swing in the wrong ways together. Maybe they swing high together, but they swing super low together. And when three guys are swinging low, you're tanked. And yeah, I mean, tonight no CMB, so Trace gets his minutes. Jakob returns, wasn't a positive. Yeah, the rotation was pretty deep tonight, but I don't know. To be honest, I still don't get a great sense of like they understand completely how they're supposed to play. We got what will Chrissy do? I really do love this account, man. Shouts to Christopher Montesanti. Sends it $5. Real problem is he can't play negative players like Grady against great teams. He couldn't even hold the ball. I love Isaiah Stewart. I mean, yeah, first off, like I was thinking about this today. Like if the Raptors got into a big scrap, like who would be the ones to actually throw down? Um, I mean, based on past history, I would say like, obviously Brandon's gotten into a bit of a scrap with his current teammate Chris Paul. By the way, I don't know. If that's the reason why Chris Paul can't come to Toronto, but I'm certainly it's certainly not helping. Okay, I'm sure they probably let some of that go. That was like 2019, so that's like 6 years ago now. But yeah, if you didn't know, I mean, yes, Brandon Ingram did jump into a fray and throw one at Chris Paul, which honestly, I'm sure CP deserved it. Okay, but past that, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure who will get into scrap. Part of me, I think there's like a burning fire in Jacoby. He kind of reminds me of a Charmander. There's just a little tiny fire on his tail, and it'll grow bigger over time. But I feel like there's something there. But I can't really see Jakob fighting. Can't really see Scottie fighting really. He kind of like when things get too annoying or physical or whatever, he kind of like laughs it off in a way, you know what I mean? Which I think is actually a healthy approach, but don't see him fighting. Again, Yak, I can't see Yak fighting. RJ, I can see RJ scrapping a little bit. RJ seems a little feisty. IQ, again, not a fighter. Not in this context. Grady, no. Grady's doing the Duncan Robinson, I'm walking away from the situation. Officer was not involved. Okay, hands up, that type of thing. Elijah, I can see getting in a fight. There's no doubt. I feel like that guy's definitely... Trace, I haven't seen enough Trace yet. Seems like a really nice dude, though, but his dad, Dale Davis, was certainly in a couple scraps, so maybe there's some genetic inheritance on that front. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly not what the Pistons have in terms of fighters, but... Anyway, I love your thoughts, actually. Who would actually square up in the fights? Yeah, we're missing our James Johnson / Amir / Serge / PJ Tucker. Any variation would do. I mean, I think that's actually a really good point, right? Because the Raptors back in, that era, like this is almost like 10 years ago now, but like when you go back to that era, the type of players the Raptors kept bringing in, especially because the Raptors made the playoffs and then they lost in the first round. Raptors made the playoffs and they lost in the first round. Every time the Raptors made the playoffs and lost, they would shed some of their more offensively leaning, but also defensively suspect players, right? Guys like would really help in the regular season, but will not help you in the playoffs. So, let's say after 2015, so they've lost 2 consecutive first rounds. They said, Lou Williams, you won the 6th man of the year. Drake's singing about how you got 2 girls and they get along. You're not coming back to the roster. We're not even going to offer you, right? Just straight up walk away. Go to the Clippers or whatever. It doesn't matter to us. Walk away, right? Gravis Vasquez, the shimmy dance, the 2 point guard lineups, was a decent piece coming back from that trade for Rudy Gay with Sacramento. But you can go too. In fact, we'll bring in 2 picks and we'll use those picks and turn them into Norman Powell and OG Anunoby. Well, one of the best trades value-wise for the Raptors, right? And then the type of players they kept bringing in were just defenders, right? So T. Ross, very, again, offensively leaning, but defensively suspect. And, in a physical game, you can expect Terrence Ross to disappear. He gets gone for Serge Ibaka. That same trade deadline, they get in PJ Tucker, right? Then they obviously go out and get Mark and Kawhi and Danny. And by the time you watch the 2019 team, you're like, damn, no one can push this team around. Nobody can push this team around. And they can play on offense, but nobody can push this team around. I suspect that's the same direction the Raptors will go again in this cycle of the team. If they're so fortunate to be in the positions where they're able to deal from surplus and get these like really tough physical guys into the team. Because again, like you just don't win in the playoffs without that type. I don't know. I hate kind of repeating myself and boiling it down to that, but that's just kind of is what it is. So we're going to take a couple more questions. But again, like I said, I'm not going to try to drag the pod on too long today. And first, actually, before we even take those questions, well, you guys know you can always make the chill choice. I'll make the chill choice this weekend. I'm going to be out in LA, NBA All-Star Weekend. I will be there alongside our co-host Alex and producer Jerome. We're going to have a great time out in LA. A couple other people from Toronto are going as well. So I look forward to sort of linking up with them. Maybe sneak into a couple parties. Maybe we'll get back into a clutch party. You never know, man. Clutch party in LA, that would be kind of legendary, right? That'd be pretty fun. I think I got a lot of things planned. So, we'll eventually see them on the channel. But I think my whole plan, especially for a busy weekend like that, where there's all the celebrities and all the players and, so many things to do, so many things to watch, so much content to put out that, gotta stay chill. And Coors is always the chill choice. And of course, when I'm going to all these parties, I'm gonna be looking for Coors. I'm gonna be looking for the Coors. I think that, I gotta want. There's a lot that I want to get done out there, and I'm certainly want to make the chill choice. Have a couple. I want to enjoy responsibly, of course. But I need to make sure I'm available for the next day and the next day and the next day, because All-Star Weekend is a blur. And so when the game heats up, when your life heats up, why not make the chill choice by grabbing a crisp, refreshing Coors Light? Find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Celebrate responsibly, and you must be of legal drinking age. All right, let's take a couple more of your questions before we get out of here. Let's do three. Let's do three Coors. Let's do three questions. Yeah, this one. Shed has been underperforming the last couple of weeks. Hopefully this break will do him some good. I mean, I think yes and no. I don't think that it's just an exhaustion thing for Jamal. I think recently he's been turning the ball over a lot, and that was maybe the first issue he had when he entered the league last year as a rookie, was he just kept turning the ball over off passes. He really got that under control and became a relatively low turnover guard, especially to start this season. But that problem started to really head back out. I think it really throws the team into a really negative tailspin when their point guard starts turning the ball over. I mean, that's a pretty standard statement you could say about most teams, but I think especially for Jamal, and then Jamal gets hard on himself. It's a whole negative cycle when he starts turning the ball over. But I think some of that too is just he's not reliable enough offensively to create despite the contact. There's not much wiggle to his game. He's mostly doing a quick crossover and then getting downhill and then dumping a pass off behind him. It's just or kicking it out. And it's teams can predict that and even shut that off. And the more they pressure him, the more they close the walls in against them, the tighter of a window he has to execute. And of course, when the mistakes happen like tonight, it just leads to so many bad outcomes. But I think for a young point guard like Jamal, he's got to figure this out. I think more than anything else, I believe in him. I like his culture. I like his toughness is noteworthy. It's not enough in a game like this, but it is noteworthy. His character is awesome. Anyone who's seen anything around Jamal, understands that. But this is not by any means a can't miss kind of situation. I think for Jamal, he's got to keep adapting. And I think I would have said the same thing about a young Fred VanVleet as well. And then Fred eventually, I mean, Fred's mentality. He's so tough and he's so stubborn that eventually he got to the point. And of course, he developed his skill set too. I mean, being a great outside shooter is an absolute must as a small shooting guard, as a small point guard who can't really create that much or of any separation really at the basket. So, Will, not a b-ball question, but have you got a chance to ride Line 5 yet? Yeah, actually I did. I wrote it 2 nights ago. I took the long way just to sort of take Line 5. So Line 5 is the Eglinton LRT, which took I don't know, it was 6-7 years overdue, and it's something $8 billion over budget. I don't know, man. It's something, I don't know. You gotta investigate the government. It is what it is. But it was finally open, so I was okay. I spent most of my life living along Eglinton, so I was it would be great to sort of, because I've done, I don't know if anyone's done it, but I used to take the bus from, because I used to live at Eglinton and Scarlett, and I guess they'll put a station there eventually. But I used to one of my best friends used to live in the same building as me, so we used to just chill all the time. But then for high school, I moved out west, and they moved to Midtown, at Yonge and Eglinton. So sometimes I would still go over to their house, but I would I'm a kid, so I'm taking the bus. Bro, taking the 32 all the way across from where I was getting on, which was basically East Mall, all the way to Yonge and Egg, it was a legitimately an hour and a half just on the bus alone. Especially once you got past that open stretch where it's mostly fields up until Jane, maybe Weston. And when you get past Weston and Black Creek, and then it's just straight up you are never moving, and you're trying to get through the same turn as because everyone's turning onto Allen. But then also the buses are trying to turn into the Eglinton West, and then the bus got to circle out of Eglinton West and keep going down. Oh my God, it's genuinely one of the worst experiences. It was actually pretty good. The thing came every 3 minutes, and I think it only had 2 links, so it's basically taking a streetcar but with only 2 links. But it was pretty fast. It came every 3 minutes, and I would say just eyeballing it, I felt like we were going like maybe 50, 55 kilometers per hour. I only took 2 stops from Mount Dennis to Caledonia because that's where I was going. But like, I can only imagine that it's actually not that bad. So, Streets 1 and Topical Talk and Traffic Talk. We'll travel vlog win. I'll do a little travel vlog when we're out in LA. How about that? But off topic, but plans for Hello and Welcome to build a podcast studio. Yes, we actually did acquire a space as part of the Nation Network. The Nation Network acquired a space, so we are looking to, like, we have the keys and everything. I was actually about to do one from a relatively empty studio a couple weeks back when we were invited to what was it? Oh yeah, the Prime Video Canada party, where we were trying to like make some connections there. And it was just down the street from where the studio was in downtown. But alas, I was managed to make it back home to watch the Raptors blow that game to the Knicks. So it is what it is. So yeah, 32 across is absolutely nuts. It was absolutely nuts. Actually, recently I was at the Aga Khan Museum. I was invited there to attend an event where Canada Basketball made an announcement that they would be playing some exhibition games as part of an ongoing Canadian and Qatari like cultural exchange. So Canada is going to send some other, athletes out as part of this, and Canada Basketball, is going to be involved. So basically, Canada Basketball is going to play some exhibition games in Qatar this summer. And so I was at Aga Khan Museum. Great museum, by the way. If you guys haven't seen, Aga Khan is like one of the. I mean, going in the wintertime is a little tougher because the grounds are so nice. It's like a big park. It's like very, very beautiful. But still, like very, very like. I mean, I can't really. It's very beautiful to see, especially when on a sunny day, when around noon, when like the sun hits through like the architecture, the way the designs are. I know this is like, I'm describing something that's pretty common in the Islamic world, and I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar are like, well, you're describing something very similar, like very common, but it was very, very beautiful just seeing how the light disseminated in the building. I don't know, like sometimes something like that can move you to tears with just how beautiful it is. But even just walking through like the history of, I guess the Arabic like civilization and like the even learning things like calligraphy and like the script and different levels of script and different types of script, and sort of how that's evolved. I mean, especially as like as someone who's Chinese, like calligraphy is like such a huge part of like our culture, and it's like a way to turn like written word obviously into something artistic, and I find that to be very, very beautiful. It's like hard to really find that in using like, I guess like the alphabet here. There's only a great way you can write a cursive word that doesn't really express the same way as maybe a calligraphy does. But anyway, great museum. But Aga Khan's also like service on this line, and it was like I went there like maybe a week before like Line 5 opened. And again, going across the city, it legit took me like an hour and a half, like just to go probably 15 kilometers. So I don't know, man. It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that could really, be improved on this front. So yeah, architecture talk. Yeah. Aga Khan Museum reminds me, I once took the 25 from Broadview to Don Mills. That's like 90 minutes at least, too. That's the thing. Like, I mean, again, I'm saying this from my perspective as someone with who's Chinese. Like the amount of subways and infrastructure that pops up is like mind blowing. Like you go back and it's like cities will have like freaking 30 lines in it, and there will be like. I remember, like, I'm from Tianjin, which is like a port city, so there's a lot of water, there's a lot of rivers as well. I remember when I left in like 2000 to come to Canada, there's like probably like 3 major bridges. Now there's like 12. I mean, I don't even remember the last time we built a bridge just on that basis alone. But anyways, infrastructure just explodes versus in Canada, especially in Toronto. I feel like, and as a lifelong like TTC rider, like. Like every bus that goes north-south just feeds into line 2 eventually, and then you got to go across line 2. But like it's absurd, man. I've taken some of the longest bus routes available. Trust me, it's pretty bad. Like when they give you 2 hours for transfer, like sometimes that's not enough, which is it shouldn't be right, man. We're moving within one city, but it's like impossible to move like east to west and west to east in the city, and north and south is also difficult too. In fact, it's actually impossible to move in the city. I'm describing all 4 directions. So, yeah. People were crashing out about Scottie and stuff. I mean, look, I think he's had a good year. He has a really, really good year overall. I think people are naturally protective of Scottie, but yeah, I mean, certain games he can be underwhelming, and I think it's fair to sort of point that out, you know. So, all right, last question. This one from Champagne Bapu. Question: Hey, Will, would it be possible to ask Darko something like how much make or miss league games is it going to be until we have to look within? The thing is, look, you can ask this question directly if you want to. You know, I think that if you've really noticed, like, I think I have tried to, in a more delicate way, ask about accountability and sort of like, you know, and I think a lot of the players have described like how Darko is maybe public facing towards media and what he says on record versus like what he says off record behind the scenes to the players. Like, obviously there's like a strong dissonance there, right? But there's only so much you can really pin on someone like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that I don't know, like a big gotcha question is like, I say that stuff for politics more than anything else. Like, I think for a basketball coach, Darko's not dumb. I literally just played you a clip where they talked about the like physicality being a weakness and they haven't learned from it. So they know. But I guess it's like more than anything else beyond the words. It's just like, you know, you got to be able to figure out a solution on the court, because at the end of the day, like, sports is it's about the results, you know. So if you don't deliver the results, I don't really care what soundbites you give out of that. So Will is supportive white dad. Will is pure Asian dad. I'm not gonna lie to you. From the Serbians I knew growing up too, like their dads reminded me a lot of Asian dads. I'll just say that much. So I know he got that gear. Trust me, I know he got that gear. Okay, that's it. Thanks everyone for listening. We're gonna hand out the 3 stars and get out of here. Again, we'll make sure you subscribe to the channel and everything, because we're gonna have a ton of content from All-Star Weekend. We're looking to have an absolutely amazing time. But 3 stars and Gerald Henderson from this game. First star is gonna go to RJ? I'll give it to RJ. Yes, why not? 16 points, 4 of 6 shooting, got to the foul line 7 of 8 times. Defensively was caught napping many times, but I guess that's no one played a perfect game tonight for sure. Second star, I'll give that to, I mean, Scottie did have a really action-packed stat line. 17 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 4 blocks. Obviously, that's fantastic. Got to the foul line 7 times as well. The big thing is he got in foul trouble early, and that took him out of the game. It also made Cade Cunningham even have more freedom. Because, like, out of as much, all due respect to Jacoby and Jamal, but they can't fuck with like Cade whatsoever. Like, it's not even close. And then third star, I mean, sometimes, you know, the issue with 3 stars is you got to find 3 stars. So, third star, wow. You know what? Third star goes to Gillette. Thanks for inviting us all to a great event tonight. Shouts to Gillette. Make sure you go with the official beer care partner of the Toronto Raptors. Your Gerald Henderson Award is going to go to B-Ball Paul Reed. Absolutely torched them. So thanks all for listening. Appreciate you guys. We will see you from All-Star Weekend. We're going to travel tomorrow, but otherwise you'll see a lot of content. So appreciate you guys. Thanks everyone for watching. And yeah, putting this game aside, let's just try to enjoy the weekend, because it'll be a lot of fun. There's the most Raptors in the All-Star Weekend in the longest time since I can remember. So let's try to enjoy it. See ya.